It's happened today. Caitlin Legacki, partner at Four Corners Public Affairs, is with us, along with Maura Gillespie of Blue Stack Strategies. Maura, the headline today is that President Zelensky goes home empty-handed. We just saw the plea in person from the White House. How much disappointment should he be preparing himself and his country for?
A good amount, honestly. Yeah, unfortunately, despite the fact that there are so many Republicans that understand the importance of supporting Ukraine and, again, pushing back against Vladimir Putin. And this plea from Zelensky, it shouldn't just fall on deaf ears in the Republican Party. I understand that they have priorities they want to get across the finish line here. And to the previous guest you had on, it should be let's not just stop here because we all want to go home for Christmas. There's still time left to get something done. And I think they could package it with something that addresses our border security as well.
Yes, Senator Rick Scott says he's happy and they should be working more days and more weekends to get this done. But he had a really serious point of they're not going to move on Ukraine unless Biden gets more serious or comes a little bit more in line with what they see for the border. Does the president need to get more involved, his hands dirty with these negotiations?
Look, I think it always benefits a negotiation when Joe Biden gets involved because he is very outcome and compromise oriented. But I also think that the White House and congressional Democrats need to do a better job of highlighting the ways that they have moved to the middle. Because right now, the entire conversation is that Democrats will not compromise, when clearly they've taken a lot of steps to come towards the middle with Republicans, and Republicans are anchoring their position on a very absolutist immigration position. And so that, I think, is where Democrats can be doing a better job. But you know, the fact that Senator Lankford and Senator Murphy both remain optimistic in tone, I think is a good sign.
Why doesn't Joe Biden go on TV, an Oval Office address? He hasn't overused that venue. I think there's been one. To talk to the American people about what needs to happen now and take credit for this and then run on it. Why not get engaged in a real way like that?
I think that all options are going to be on the table. It's not clear that this is an issue that's really going to break through. I think if he does reach a compromise on immigration, he should absolutely be talking about it. But, you know, he's got challenges with the left right now as in relation to how he's handling Israel and Palestine. There's a lot of very vocal folks on the left who are going to be concerned about any compromise that he comes to. And so, you know, I'm sure his team is weighing all of the options, and if they decide it's in his interest to do that, they will.
How do you think Speaker Johnson will play this in the House? Because Zelensky made a point after he spoke about meeting Speaker Johnson today. He said, we have to separate words and a particular result. It felt like he was throwing some cold water on everything he thinks he can get from Congress.
You know, Speaker Mike Johnson's problem is that he has really struggled to make any decisions and to be clear and vocal about those decisions. And I think that's where probably Zelensky was coming from was, yeah, I'm sure they had a great conversation, but there was no definitive, here's what we need to get this for you. And I think Mike Johnson's goal here is to keep his party happy and to keep his conference at bay so that they're not trying to oust him. But in reality, we can, you know, walk and chew gum at the same time. And I really do think the Republicans have an opportunity to have this leverage of, you know, immigration is always going to be a wedge issue for both parties. But they have an opportunity because it is such a national issue as far as national security, and tying it into our aid for Ukraine is also important for our national security. We cannot be the land of, you know, hope and opportunity without law and order. Tie those things all together and sell that package to the American people.
Well, the meeting that we were really focused on today was not the one with the president. It was the one with the Speaker of the House.
You know how Biden feels about it.
Absolutely. Made his feelings well known. Mike Johnson, we weren't sure exactly how he would react to this face-to-face, and he did speak with reporters after his meeting with Zelensky. Here he is.
Just had a good meeting with President Zelensky. I reiterated to him that we stand with him and against Putin's brutal invasion. The American people stand for freedom, and they're on the right side of this fight. I have also made very clear from day one that our first condition on any national security supplemental spending package is about our own national security first. The border is an absolute catastrophe.
Maura, I know the border is, in many cases, issue number one for a lot of Republican lawmakers, for a lot of Republican voters. But is the Republican conference prepared to have its fingerprints on what would happen if nothing happens here, if Vladimir Putin does roll through Ukraine? How does the Republican Party tell that story?
That's going to be a tough sell, right? But I think, again, immigration has long been used as a wedge issue for both parties, that they've had ample opportunities to make headway on it, and more or less chose not to because of the political ramifications they would feel from their constituents, from their base.
Sure.
And now we're in this position where, again, national security ties into one of the number 2 issues that people are going to be voting for in less than a year from now is the economy and national and security and safety. So
won't Democrats run ads calling Republicans the pro-Putin party?
They possibly, but you also have some Democrats who are saying immigration and our border security is a real concern. We should be coming to the table to have these conversations and find a reasonable solution. And again, I know reasonable may seem like a far-fetched idea for some people in Congress, but that's what we need. We need a pragmatic approach here, and truly it's just some adults in the room.
Well, Biden is trying to sell it as a national security concern. Take a listen to what he had to say moments ago, speaking from the White House.
We're in negotiations to get funding we need, not to promise, not making promises, but hopeful we can get there. I think we can. And you're right, the world's watching what we do. We just send a horrible message to an aggressor and allies if we walked away at this time, and it would hurt our national security.
I think something else that they should be talking about as far as Republicans go is the economy. You know, Washington Post came out with a report recently that our involvement in Ukraine is actually spurring some parts of our economy as far as production of equipment. And they could be really selling this. I don't understand why we're not capitalizing on that part of the conversation as well.
Well, Minority Leader Mitch McConnell has really made that point.
Look at the states involved.
Right.
When you're talking about immigration, though, Biden also, I think, wants a deal on something. He's getting calls from Pritzker, from Kathy Hochul. He needs this.
Yes, I agree. I agree completely that if we don't do something to address immigration, it is going to be a liability next year. I think, you know, there's a lot of bluster around this issue. There always has been. But the reality is that there are people in states, either on the border or in major cities, that feel like this is a problem that needs to be addressed. And I think Biden wants to find a responsible solution, but I think he has to do something on it.
You just wonder what form that would take. There's been commentary from both Chris Murphy and James Lankford that maybe the point here is not to get everything we can get, do everything that we need to do at the border. Maybe there is room for compromise here. That was just yesterday. It's not feeling so much like it today.
Again, I think because members are already basically said, like, we're done, we're packing it up, Friday, we're all home for holidays.
That's it.
And that is frustrating, again, for the opportunities that I think are left on the table to do something about.
It's like they're not staying overtime.
Except Senator Rick Scott.
Well, he's ready to. Thanks to Caitlin Legacki and Maura Gillespie with us on Balance of Power.